thank you for being here tonight. I'm Mary Kay Huss. I'm the CEO of Richmond Metropolitan Habitat. And this is the first in a series of events that we're having in the counties. And like I said, I lived in Chesterfield County for 28 years. Two of my children went to this high school. And this is bringing back memories for me of my kids up on stage at drama events. So it's good to be back in, I'll always call this Clover Hill High School, but it is the Chesterfield County Technical Center. Is that right? Am I right there? Cool. So Habitat, I appreciate your patience. I'm going to do a little Habitat commercial first, and then we'll hear from Jesse Smith, the Deputy Director for Chesterfield County. Habitat for Humanity, our affiliate, is one of over 1,200 Habitat for Humanity affiliates across the country. And our affiliate has been around since 1986. We've built over 350 homes during that time. And our service territory is Richmond, Chesterfield, and Henrico counties. So a little bit more about Habitat. We are a more complex organization than you might think. We're a number of things. We're a builder, and we build safe, affordable housing, energy efficient housing. That's what we mean by green housing. We're a bank. We provide the first mortgages for our homeowners, a 0% mortgage. We're a social services agency as well. We work with our homeowners doing pre-purchase counseling and post-purchase counseling. And we're a retail operation. And how many people have been to our restores? Yay! So we have 2 restore operations, one in Chesterfield County across from Chesterfield Town Center. That's our newer location. I was explaining it to somebody today. It's across from JCPenney, technically, on Mall Drive. And then our other restore is on Roan Drive in the city, off of Chamberlain Avenue. And the retail operations do help support our operations financially. And rather than hear me talk about it, I'd rather do a video, and that's really going to give you the best story about Habitat, if we can make this work.
In 2013, my husband was medically retired from the Army for PTSD. We were homeless. Habitat has a special program for veterans, Habitat for Heroes. This house is a miracle. It's a house that we will own the rest of our lives. The kids feel very safe and secure here. They were able to paint their rooms. First time in 10 years they've been able to paint their rooms. We wanted to do as many hours on our house as possible. You take a lot of pride in knowing that you did some of the work. I think for Patrick especially, it was a huge blow mentally from doing something he loved to feeling like he couldn't provide for his family. And working on the house just made him feel like he was doing something. And so every day when he comes in, he can say, I painted those walls. I installed those vents. I drywalled the garage. And now he can say, I did something to provide for my family and kids. Habitat for Heroes saved our marriage, saved our family. So it's definitely been a blessing.
So that's just one of our 350 homeowners that we've served. So in the fiscal year that just ended, June 30, we served 26 families. In our homeownership program, we built and rehabbed 8 homes through our partner family homeownership program. And that's a program where the families really are partnering with us. They have to put 350 hours of sweat equity into their houses. They have to attend a home buyers club, learn how to be a home buyer. Home ownership is not for everyone, and so it's real important to be prepared for that adventure. In addition, we rehabbed and sold 7 more homes through our neighborhood revitalization program, and those are homes that we built with subcontractors rather than volunteers, and those homeowners are able to obtain their own mortgages through a conventional process. And we also built and funded 4 homes internationally. So Habitat for Humanity is an international company, and throughout the world, our fundraising efforts are building homes across the world. And so not everybody realizes that, so I always like to point that out. We've also done we also do critical home repairs, and last year we did 7 of those in Chesterfield County. And we're going to be working in Chesterfield County and in the city of Richmond doing critical home repairs this year. And that is a program to preserve home ownership, to help homeowners be able to age in place. Perhaps they're on fixed incomes and they need a little help getting the roof repaired or getting a heating or cooling system repaired. And so that does help us serve homeowners in the Chesterfield County area. So just overall, last year, the average income of the families that we served, the average income was $37,000. And the average mortgage payment, we're aiming for an affordable mortgage payment. The average mortgage payment was about $600 a month. And that includes your taxes and insurance. And so we can do that. Well, first I'm going to show you some before and after pictures of the rehabs we've been doing. These are in the city. This is in the north side. And then this one is in Ettrick. This is one of our projects going on now in Chesterfield County. This was a very old rehab, so old, in fact, I just think it's interesting we were able to save this house. This house was so old, it was built in the 1800s, and you can actually see the wooden dowels holding the framing together. So I just think that's really interesting. So as you know, we use volunteers to do a lot of our work. And our community engagement efforts allows us to be able to build these affordable houses. With the help of our volunteers, we can build a house for $77 a square foot. The houses that we build for others that can get their own mortgages, when we use subcontractors for that, it averages about $127 per square foot. Our average house is 2 or 3 bedroom, about 1,200 square feet. But we calculate that volunteers save us $54,000 per house when we can do that. And we have a impressive ROI on our volunteer, what we invest in volunteer management. We see an ROI of $8.55. So that's the end of the Habitat commercial for you tonight, and I appreciate you being here and supporting Habitat. And I've only been with Habitat since the end of April, and I've been in affordable housing for 30 years, and I'm just having a ball working with Habitat for Humanity. The second part of our program, I'm going to introduce Jesse Smith. Jesse began his new role as your Deputy County Administrator for Community Development recently, October 1st, I believe, right, Jesse? Yep. He's worked for 28 years in the county in various capacities. He holds a bachelor's degree of biological systems engineering. That's kind of impressive. From Virginia Tech, go Hokies. I paid tuition there too. He's a lifelong resident of the county, and he's represented the county at countless public meetings throughout his career. He's won awards from the National Association of Counties, the Virginia Association of Counties, the American Council of Engineering, and the highest award for achievement from Dale Carnegie. In his new job as Deputy County Administrator for Community Development, he oversees the daily operations of multiple county departments and programs, including building inspection, community enhancement, environmental engineering, planning, transportation, and utilities. So let's welcome Jesse being with us tonight.
So again, my name's Jesse. I grew up here. I was born and raised here, so it's really cool for me to be back in this particular role. Prior to this, I spent the majority of my time in transportation, so doing highway work in the last 5 years as transportation director. So typically when I've come to these meetings, it's been a little bit of a different format, so it's really nice to be out here seeing some friendly faces and talking about revitalization and community enhancement and housing in Chesterfield County. As she said, I oversee about 6 different departments right now, building inspections, utilities, kind of your traditional infrastructure departments. Having departments is kind of like having kids. You wouldn't want to out loud say that you have a favorite, but I'll go ahead and say that community enhancement's absolutely my favorite because they do the coolest work, and you really get to see some different faces and do some really meaningful work. So it's exciting for me to be here and be able to talk about what community enhancement is and what they do and really who they are, from a personality perspective. Dan Cohen is actually the director of community enhancement. Unfortunately, he was not able to make it. He's out in Arizona, I think it is. But we do have some really important folks here. Would like them to just kind of stand up and wave so that if you need them after this, you know who they are. So we have Pam Cooper. Pam will wave at you. Kathleen Thompson. And then Matt Becker is also with us tonight. And we'll go over kind of in the presentation what those folks do and how they may be able to help you. And that's really what this is about, is forming partnerships with you all in the community. So the Community Enhancement Department was formed about 2 years ago and is really synergy among folks that were in several different departments. So for example, Kathleen, I believe, was in our budget department, handling grants. Pam Cooper was over in general services, doing some work out in the community. Matt is our first housing guy. He started about 6 months ago. But we also brought folks from our license inspector, and from what we had was really a revitalization department of one. So we brought all those folks together and have formed what we call in Chesterfield County Community Enhancement, which is fairly unique for a suburban community. So what is community? It's not just infrastructure, it's not just things, it's really having kind of a shared belief and needs among different people. So we want to emphasize that it's not just the physical plant, it's not just what you see, but it's really more esoteric than that. It's really more about what people are and kind of a sense of belonging. Next is what is enhancement? It's really just to make things better. And it's in line with the county's strategic plan. In terms of what we do, it's about giving people resources. And we like to make that a collaborative effort. So in terms of code enforcement, it kind of has a negative connotation that we're trying to make people fix things. That's really not what we do. From our perspective, what we do in community enhancement is try to connect people with the resources that they may need to enhance their communities. So that's where we get community enhancement. So this is traditional suburbia. This is not actually a location in Chesterfield, but it's probably not entirely dissimilar from some locations that we have. So this is the traditional hub and spoke Euclidean method of development. So we do have a lot of this at Chesterfield, and frankly, it's not a sustainable form of development, and we're starting to see that folks really want to see kind of a different lifestyle. They don't want to be tethered to their cars anymore. They don't want to get stuck on Hall Street traffic. They want to be able to walk places. They want to be able to bike places. So a lot of the focus in community enhancement is providing kind of some of those different needs and different mobility options. Oh, let me back up. So this is kind of what you think about when you talk about U.S. growth, over multiple decades, starting in the 50s. I do remember the one on the left, which is Leave It to Beaver. I struggled to identify the other two. Pam did help me a little bit with those. I can't remember what they are. The other unique thing about this, and Dan always points this out, so I feel obligated to do it, is that Barbara Billingsley, who played the mother in Leave It to Beaver, is actually related to Rich Billingsley, who works at Community Enhancement, is our license inspector. So just a neat little bit of synergy there from some old school television. But again, this is kind of what you would see, back in the days, 50s, 60s, 70s, mom and dad, 2 kids at least. But that's not really what we have these days, and demographics are changing. So I actually use pictures of my own family just to kind of to bring that home for you. So my wife and daughter are there in the upper right picture. So that is one of her, I think it's her second dance recital. She's a 4-year-old, so she had a blast there. But I think we're kind of typical of folks these days. We had kid later in life. So I'm 42 years old. My wife is almost 40. So we have our first child, later in life. We're only having one. That's going to be it for us. And that's not entirely dissimilar from a lot of our peer group. Folks are waiting longer in life to have kids, and generally speaking, they're having less of them. For the next 2 decades, about 80% of new households will be singles and couples. Usually when you hear singles and couples, you think young folks. But that's not entirely true. So picture the upper left, obviously my parents, they are a couple. There are no kids left in the house. They're completely empty nesters. My daughter does visit them about once a week and stays over for the day. But other than that, they are what is considered a couple. Lower right, my mother-in-law. Unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away about 5 years ago. She is technically a single. So again, the demographics are changing. As people are living longer, we're starting to see this age wave of singles and couples, but it's not just young people, it's also kind of the older generation, and the needs of the community changes as that happens. And this slide really identifies kind of the disparity, or they call it the housing mismatch, that we have not just in Chesterfield County, but also nationwide. So nationwide, about 62% of household stock is single family. So think 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, traditional colonial, probably, in Chesterfield, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet is kind of what we would typically see. But only 22% of U.S. households are married couples with children. So you've got a 40% delta between the two. So that's a challenge. So then the question is, how do you really address that? If you drill down a little bit more, you could see that percent change in age group from 2000 to 2016. The blue column in the middle is suburban, what Chesterfield would typically be considered. The vast majority of the increase is in those folks that are 65 plus. So my parents, my mother-in-law, both in their 70s, pretty typical of what you would see, but particularly in a location like Chesterfield County, where we do have a lot of boomers and a lot of aging population that are still here. So what are we trying to do about it? So this is a good example of what we're trying to do moving forward. So this is taken from the draft Midlothian Special Area Plan. This is a rendering, doesn't actually exist, of Midlothian Turnpike. The white building in the background, kind of the 2-story with the 2nd-story porch there, is Mount Pisgah, if you know where that is. The other buildings are renderings, of course, and not actually there. But what happened is we went out to the community with a special area plan and asked them what they want to see. By and large, everyone said they don't want to be tethered to the car anymore. They want to have different forms of mobility, and they want things to be walkable. So that's what we're trying to get to in certain parts of the county, certain high volume, high capacity corridors. We want to look at doing things like having outdoor dining, for example, having a bike paths, in this case a 2-way bike path, pedestrian amenities separated from the road. We have a lot of sidewalks here in the county, but that doesn't mean that they're walkable. They tend to be right against the road where it's not comfortable, so there's no separation. People don't really feel comfortable walking, and there's also not a mix of uses. There's a myth that walkability is just infrastructure. It's not. You need to have a mix of uses so that people can walk, from their place of business to a restaurant at lunch, or from their residence, to medical or dental services. So those are really the keys, and those are the things that we're trying to focus on, because that's what's come out of a lot of the input that we've had within the county, is that people don't want to be tethered to the cars anymore. They want to have walkability, and that's kind of what some of these visions are. An example of where we've done something a little bit different, this is actually in the Jeff Davis corridor, which when I grew up, you would not have thought that this would be along Route 1. But this is Colony Village Apartments, absolutely fantastic market rate apartments. You could see the one on the bottom left. I think that goes for, I want to say like $2,000 a month in terms of rent. So we're trying to address some of the pent up need from having either aging populations or millennials. They're looking for housing that we currently don't have. So this is going back to how do you solve that housing mismatch? How do you go between having 62% of folks that are looking for something other than a two-story, 2,000 or 3,000 square foot colonial with 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. So having developments like these occur is really important. According to the Wellland Center down at UVA, which I'm a tech grad, so I don't know if you can believe the information they give you, but we're going to go with it for now. The population of Chesterfield is going to increase by about 37,000 by 2025, which will create the demand for approximately 400 multifamily units per year. So it's important that we start looking at providing that different type of housing stock, particularly here within the county. So that's really what this is about. One of the other tools that we're looking at, again, specifically along one of our older corridors, so Jeff Davis Highway, is what's called an overlay district. So this would allow by right development of multifamily units in commercially zoned properties with certain conditions. It was unanimously supported by the Planning Commission last meeting, and I believe goes to the Board of Supervisors this month. I would be remiss if I didn't also point out we do have one of our board members here. Dorothy Jekyll is here. Yep, she's waving right there. So this is in your district. Again, a really nice tool to be able to have so that folks can look at redeveloping their property to meet the need of the community, but also find a better use for it. Some of these C5 properties are old, tire stores, they're auto dealers, probably something that's really underutilized. So we're hoping that this will really spur reinvestment in the corridor. This example is a rendering that we did just to do kind of a land fit. I think this is, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, about 4 acres. So this is a 4-acre property, but it just shows that you could fit all of our parking requirements, all of our landscaping requirements, everything you need to on a relatively small piece of property. I think we figured out you could go down to about 1.5 acres and still make it work, but you're probably, the sweet spot's probably a little bit higher than that. Again, just another tool in the toolbox that we're hoping will spur some redevelopment in an area that it just needs a little bit of love. Rehabilitation tax exemption. Sorry, that was a tough one for me. So this is something that we've had for a while, but we have not done a really good job of marketing it. Since we've moved this program over to Community Enhancement, we're now up to about 30 applications per year. It's valid for residential or commercial properties. So the example you see here is Brock's Barbecue. That's before renovation, and I'll click and, yep, there it is after renovation. So again, a very nice development. In terms of how does this work for residential, it has to be a qualifying investment, so it has to be at least 10% of the assessed value. So for example, $300,000 home, you would have to put in at least $30,000 towards things that actually provide an increase in the assessed value. So not things like landscaping or appliances, but for example, finishing a bonus room of your garage, providing additional space, those sorts of things. If you have questions about it, we could tell you, whether it qualifies or doesn't qualify. But it's one of those that it does have to be a qualifying investment. But if I were to invest that $30,000, that for me would result in a $285 tax break annually for 15 years. So it is prorated over 15 years, but that would amount to $4,275. So not a small chunk of change when you look at it in the aggregate. So that program is available, and there's more information on the website. CDBG and home funding. So CDBG traditionally, we had not necessarily looked at housing, I'll say, as of a few years ago, but that's really been the focus moving forward. You can see on here we've had a marked increase in what we're allocating towards housing. From our perspective, that it's really something tangible that you could see, and it's a lifestyle changer for certain folks. So that's been a really successful program. We are looking at targeting specific areas, so in this case, Ettrick and the Jeff Davis corridor. We're currently accepting applications for FY21, so Kathleen's going to raise her hand again. So she's the person to talk to. Those are due November 29th. Lots of information is available on the website, but again, we do have folks here that'll be happy to chat with you about that after the meeting. Again, just re-emphasizing that some of what we'll be doing in FY20 and how many projects that we'll have coming up. So these are just a few of the notable projects that we'll have through partnerships. Again, Maggie Walker to Community Land Trust, a key partner in everything that we're doing moving forward. Project Homes, again, also with some additional work in the Better Housing Coalition as well. A few examples. So in the upper left, that is the first property that we worked with the Maggie Walker to Community Land Trust, and we just turned over the keys, what was it, last week? A few weeks ago, so within the past few weeks. So the funding was used to rehabilitate the home, and it was eventually sold to an income-eligible owner. So that's been a good success. The one on the bottom left is an example of one that we're going to use one of our new ordinances to see if we can help get that out to auction. So get that out of being in what we would term a dilapidated state, and really to get it back on the tax rolls. So that's another one that we'll use a tool for. And then the third project, the largest picture there, I didn't believe this, but this is actually a rendering. That's not a real home. So it just shows you what you can do with technology these days. That's one that Project Homes is doing at Ettrick. So again, just a really, really nice looking project there. Another real world example, on the left is the before, on the right is after. We did not make the house bigger. It's just the perspective of the two pictures. They're taken at slightly different angles, so the one on the left looks smaller, the one on the right looks larger, but it's the same house, just with a much improved facade and exterior. So this was a partnership with Project Homes. It addressed some code violations, but once we started getting into that, it really became more than that. The big takeaway, the big success story here is that it really re-energized the neighborhood. This is one of those homes that we were receiving a lot of complaints on. It was actually causing stress between the neighbors. The neighbors were obviously not happy with the condition of the home. It was causing, let's just say, some infighting with some folks there. So that's really turned out to be a great success story. Neighbors are happy, homeowners happy, and we were able to do that and leverage that with Project Home. So that's really been an excellent partnership. So Pam's going to wave again at you. She's the one that handles all this. Pam is absolutely one of my favorite people, because anytime we have a complaint about litter, trash, just making an area look better, I could call Pam, and she's the one that will help me and can help you. So if you're out in the community, you've got an area that just needs a little love, let us know. We'll work to find resources to do that. You could see all the work on the right that they've done. It's everything from litter pickups to adopt a cemetery to bulky waste removal. Those programs have all been really embraced by the community and have been very successful. Community cleanups. This is one of those that started 2 years ago, I want to say, and it has been one of the things that communities across the county have asked for. Everybody has that, at least I did, a broken lawnmower in their backyard. They've got something they've just been waiting to get rid of that you can't just put in your big blue trash can. So this has been a huge benefit for the community. You could see Scottingham and Solar One, which are two neighborhoods kind of in the older part of Clover Hill, had 33 tons of trash. So a ton is 2,000 pounds, so that's, if I do my math right, 66,000 pounds of just unwanted material. It's not all trash. Some of it's, the unwanted lawnmower, just other materials that you can't dispose of normally. This program used to be a kind of a curbside pickup. We're starting to rotate that to more of a community-based organization where we reach out to the community, supply the rollaway dumpsters, and work with them to get with their neighbors and really clean up the community as a whole. We found that to be really effective. So number one, from a logistics standpoint, it's much easier. And number two, it really gets folks out of the community, talking to their neighbors, finding out who lives next door or down the street, and finding ways to help each other. So that's been a really, really good community-based effort. The revolving loan fund. So it can be used for the things listed there: acquisition, rehabilitation, and construction. And it is available for profit and nonprofit developers. It's not intended for use by individual homeowners. We have partnered with, it's LISC, the Local Initiative Support Corporation. And there's an emphasis on providing the loan fund to nonprofit developers. Again, can be used for those sources up there, and it's for either sale or rental properties. A little bit more information about that. This gives you kind of the detail in terms of the loan structure, up to $300K, fairly low interest rate, but a pretty quick payback period. So this is Matt's area of expertise. So Matt's going to wave at you again. So Matt is our new housing expert as of about 6 months ago. We're really happy to have him. He's done some really cool maps, some good demographic information. So this shows you the median residential assessment throughout the county. Kind of the takeaway from this is that I'll orient you a little bit. So the big red road right here is 288. This pink one is where you were stuck underway here, so that's Hull Street Road. So what you'll notice is kind of the older area, kind of in this area, I'll say north and east of 288, you kind of have some of the lower home values, which makes sense. You know, it's some of the older housing stock, just some areas that have been around a while. Nothing necessarily wrong with homes, it's just that they were built in probably the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So next Matt has done for us is one that shows demographics. So we've kind of flipped the colors on you. But if you look to see low-income households, it's actually in the darker colors in this case. But again, it is kind of that same area. So again, 288 right here, and then Hull Street. So really, it's the area, again, kind of to the north and east of 288, what we would consider the inner ring suburbs, again, are kind of some of the lower income areas. So then the question is, okay, well, that's nice. You have all of this data. What are you really going to do with it? So this is the answer. So we're going to use that to inform kind of some of our decisions. So countywide, we're trying to have more data-driven decisions. So this will inform not only where we use some of the program funds, so CDBG and home, but also, where do we focus some of our capital improvement programs? So for example, where do we put sidewalk projects? Well, this will help us inform, maybe there's some spots where we could do some additional infrastructure. Maybe there's a sewer line rehab that needs to be done. Maybe there's some drainage improvements that we could do. So this is really a tool that we're going to use countywide to look at trying to focus some more resources, look at, are there spots that we can use to identify for some of those, some of the funding that we have. And again, also for doing things like community cleanups and some of the other outreach efforts that we have. One of the things that's near and dear to my heart is something that we are currently working on in my old Department of Transportation, but was an effort that came out of the Jefferson Davis Special Area Plan. What was identified there was really just an increased need for mobility along the corridor. So the county is working with GRTC to develop a traditional transit route that will run from the Food Line Shopping Center north of Chippenham, which is where the GRTC route currently stops, down to John Tyler Community College. We've done quite a bit of outreach, and everyone we've talked to along the corridor is extremely excited about it. John Tyler is very excited. The residents there are really excited. These pictures were taken last week. So this is GRTC filming commercials out there. So similar to how they rolled out bus rapid transit, the Pulse program in downtown Richmond, you'll start seeing commercials run for the new route that will start in the spring of 2020. So we're really excited to see how that will change things and how that can enhance the community along the Jeff Davis corridor. So I think that's the end of the formal presentation. All of our contact information is there. Please reach out to any of us if there's anything we can do to help you guys. We're looking to form partnerships. We're looking to help folks, and just in general looking to enhance the community.